everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Learn English with Podcast. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Tony. We're so happy you're here with us today.
Today, we're going to talk about something really useful, phrasal verbs. This is part 4 of our series.
That's right, Nikki. Phrasal verbs are very important in English. They help you sound more natural when you speak.
Yes, and we'll be talking about 8 new phrasal verbs today. First, we'll explain what they mean and give some examples. Then, we'll listen to dialogues using these phrasal verbs.
That's the plan. And don't worry, we'll keep it simple and fun.
So, let's start with the first 2 phrasal verbs, come after and go in for.
Come after means to follow someone or something. For example, the dog came after me.
Yes, or winter always comes after autumn.
Good examples. And go in for means to enjoy something or like doing it. For example, I really go in for playing football.
Or she goes in for reading books.
Perfect. Now, Nikki, do you have any personal experiences with these phrasal verbs?
Oh, yes. When I was a kid, my little brother always came after me when I played in the garden. He wanted to do everything I did.
That's cute. I remember when I decided to go in for cooking. It was so much fun and I learned a lot.
That's great. Cooking is a good hobby. Now, let's listen to a conversation using come after and go in for.
Yes, let's hear how these phrasal verbs are used in real life.
Hi, John. How was your weekend?
Hi, Mary. It was great. I decided to go in for hiking.
Really? That sounds fun. Did anyone come after you on the trail?
Yes, actually. My dog came after me the whole time.
That's nice. Dogs love hiking. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did. I think I will go in for hiking more often.
Maybe I'll go in for it too. It sounds exciting.
You should. It's a good way to relax and see nature.
I will. Thanks for the idea, John.
No problem, Mary. Let's go hiking together next weekend.
That's a great idea. Let's do it.
That was a nice conversation, wasn't it, Tony?
Yes, it was. They used come after and go in for very naturally.
I liked how John's dog came after him on the hike.
And Mary seemed really interested in going in for hiking too.
Exactly. It shows how we can use these phrasal verbs in everyday talk.
Listeners, did you enjoy that dialogue? We hope you did.
Remember, practice makes perfect. Try using come after and go in for in your own sentences this week.
Now, let's move on to the next 2 phrasal verbs. Turn out and set about.
Turn out means to happen or become known in a certain way. For example, the cake turned out great.
Or, it turned out that he was right.
And set about means to start doing something. For example, I set about cleaning the house.
Or, they set about their work early in the morning.
Good examples. We will explain more and give you some dialogues.
That's right. As we mentioned, turn out means to happen or become known in a certain way. For example, if you bake a cake and it's delicious, you can say, the cake turned out great.
And set about means to start doing something with determination. For instance, I set about cleaning the house means you started cleaning the house in a focused way.
These are very useful in daily conversations. Let's give some more examples.
Sure. Tony, can you think of a time when something turned out different from what you expected?
Yes, I can. I once tried to bake a cake for my mom's birthday. I thought it would be a disaster because I'm not a great baker, but it actually turned out pretty good.
That's a nice surprise. For me, I remember setting about learning guitar last year. It was tough at first, but I kept practicing and now I can play a few songs.
That's awesome, Nikki. It's great to hear that you set about learning something new, and it turned out well.
Thanks, Tony. Now, let's listen to a conversation where these phrasal verbs are used.
Hey Sarah, how did your project turn out?
Hi, Mike. It turned out better than I expected.
That's great. How did you set about it?
Well, I set about it by making a plan first.
That's smart. Did you have any problems?
A few, but I managed to solve them. How about your project?
It turned out okay. I set about working on it right away.
Good job. What did you learn from it?
I learned that setting about a project early helps a lot.
Absolutely. I think we both did a great job.
Yes, we did. Let's celebrate our success.
That was a good conversation. It shows how turn out and set about can be used.
Yes, Sarah and Mike talked about their projects and how they set about working on them.
And it turned out well for both of them, which is great.
I liked how they shared their experiences and what they learned.
Me too. It's important to set about tasks with a good plan and to keep going even if there are problems.
Exactly. And sometimes, things turn out better than we expect.
That's a good lesson for our listeners. Always give your best and see how it turns out.
Now, let's move on to the next two phrasal verbs. Give off and cut out.
Give off means to produce or emit something, like a smell or light. For example, the flowers give off a nice smell.
Or the lamp gives off a bright light.
And cut out means to stop doing something or to remove something. For instance, I need to cut out eating junk food.
Or the mechanic cut out the damaged part of the car.
Great examples. Do you have any personal stories with these phrasal verbs, Tony?
Yes. I remember last summer we had some candles that gave off a lovely scent. It made our home smell wonderful.
That sounds nice. For me, I decided to cut out soda from my diet. It was hard at first, but I feel much better now.
Good for you, Nikki. Cutting out unhealthy habits is always a good idea.
Absolutely. Now, let's hear a dialogue using give off and cut out.
Hi, Emma. What's that smell?
Hi, Jack. It's the flowers. They give off a nice fragrance.
They sure do. Where did you get them?
From the market. I love how they give off such a pleasant smell.
I should get some too. By the way, I decided to cut out sugar from my diet.
Really? That's great. How's it going?
It's tough, but I feel better. What about you? Any changes?
I'm trying to cut out watching too much TV.
Good idea. Maybe we can help each other with our goals.
Yes, let's do that. We can motivate each other.
Sounds like a plan. Let's start today.
Agreed. We can achieve our goals together.
That was a nice conversation. They talked about give off and cut out in a very natural way.
Yes, Emma's flowers gave off a nice fragrance, and Jack decided to cut out sugar from his diet.
It's great how they are helping each other with their goals.
That's the spirit. It's always good to have support when you're trying to make changes.
Absolutely. Listeners, try to use give off and cut out in your conversations this week.
Now, let's move on to our final two phrasal verbs, bring about and call out.
Bring about means to cause something to happen. For example, the new law will bring about many changes.
Or, hard work can bring about success.
And call out means to shout or to criticize someone publicly. For example, she called out his name.
Or the teacher called out the student for cheating.
Great examples. Do you have any personal stories with these phrasal verbs, Tony?
Yes. I remember when my hard work brought about a promotion at work. It was a proud moment for me.
That's awesome. For me, I once had to call out a friend for being late all the time. It wasn't easy, but it helped.
Sometimes calling out someone can bring about positive changes.
Exactly. Now, let's hear a dialogue using bring about and call out.
Hey Lisa, did you hear about the new project?
Hi, Tom. Yes, I did. It's going to bring about many changes.
That's true. Are you excited about it?
Yes, but also a bit nervous. Change can be challenging.
I understand. By the way, did you call out Mark for being late?
Yes, I did. I had to call him out. It's important for the team.
Good job. Sometimes we need to call out things to improve.
I agree. It will bring about a better working environment.
Absolutely. Let's work together to make this project a success.
Yes, let's do it. We can achieve a lot together.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Let's get started.
That was a great conversation. They used bring about and call out effectively.
Yes. Lisa and Tom talked about how changes can bring about positive outcomes and the importance of calling out issues.
It's important to address problems to bring about improvements.
Exactly. And working together can help achieve great results.
Listeners, try to use bring about and call out in your conversations this week.
Yes. We covered 4 new phrasal verbs: turn out, set about, give off, and cut out. Let's do a quick review of all 8 phrasal verbs we've discussed today.
Great idea, Tony. Reviewing helps reinforce what we've learned. Let's start with come after.
Come after means to follow someone or something. For example, the dog came after me, or spring comes after winter.
And go in for means to enjoy something or like doing it. For example, I really go in for playing football, or she goes in for reading books.
Next, we have turn out. This means to happen or become known in a certain way. For example, the cake turned out great, or it turned out that he was right.
And set about means to start doing something with determination. For example, I set about cleaning the house, or they set about their work early in the morning.
Moving on, give off means to produce or emit something, like a smell or light. For example, the flowers give off a nice smell, or the lamp gives off a bright light.
And cut out means to stop doing something or to remove something. For instance, I need to cut out eating junk food, or the mechanic cut out the damaged part of the car.
Next, we have bring about. This means to cause something to happen. For example, the new law will bring about many changes, or hard work can bring about success.
And finally, call out means to shout or to criticize someone publicly. For example, she called out his name, or the teacher called out the student for cheating.
Now, let's give some more examples for each of these phrasal verbs to help our listeners understand them better.
Sure. Let's start with come after. Imagine you're playing a game of tag. The person who is it comes after you to try and tag you.
Good example. For go in for, you might say, I go in for swimming every weekend because it's so refreshing.
Moving to turn out. You could say, we were worried about the party, but it turned out to be a lot of fun.
For set about, think of starting a new hobby. She set about learning how to paint, and now she's very good at it.
With give off, imagine a campfire. The campfire gives off warmth and light.
And for cut out, if you're on a diet, you might say, I decided to cut out sugary drinks.
For bring about, consider a new policy at work. The new policy brought about improved communication in the office.
Lastly, for call out, you could say, the coach called out the player for not following the rules.
I hope these examples help make the meanings of these phrasal verbs clearer.
Yes, and remember, practice makes perfect. Try using these phrasal verbs in your own sentences this week.
Before we move on to more fun and practice, let's recap the dialogues we've listened to so far.
Good idea. In the first dialogue, we heard about someone going in for hiking and how their dog came after them on the trail.
Yes, and in the second dialogue, we learned about setting about a project and how it turned out better than expected.
In the third dialogue, we heard about flowers giving off a nice fragrance and someone cutting out sugar from their diet.
And in the fourth dialogue, we listened to how a new project would bring about many changes and the importance of calling out issues.
These dialogues show how versatile and useful phrasal verbs can be in everyday conversations.
Absolutely. They help you sound more natural and fluent in English.
Now it's time for another dialogue. This time we're going to challenge ourselves by using all 8 phrasal verbs we've learned today in one conversation.
That's right, Tony. This will be a great way to see how these phrasal verbs can be used together in a natural setting. Let's dive right in.
Hi, Anna. How did your baking experiment turn out?
Hey, John. It turned out surprisingly well. I thought it would be a disaster, but the cake was delicious.
That's great to hear. What made you go in for baking in the first place?
I've always loved cooking, so I decided to set about trying something new. Baking seemed like a fun challenge.
I remember you saying that. Did the cake give off a good smell while it was baking?
Yes, it did. The whole house smelled amazing. I think I need to bake more often.
You should. By the way, I finally decided to cut out junk food from my diet.
Really? That's a good decision. What brought about that change?
I realized it was affecting my health. Plus, I want to be in better shape. How about you? Any new goals?
I'm trying to be more punctual. I've been calling out myself for being late too often.
That's a good goal. It's important to recognize and improve on such habits. What's next for you?
Well, I'm thinking of learning how to garden. I want to set about creating a beautiful garden that gives off lovely scents and colors.
That sounds like a wonderful plan. Maybe I'll come after you and try gardening too.
That would be fun. We can share tips and help each other out.
Absolutely. Here's to new challenges and turning out successful.
That was a fantastic dialogue, don't you think, Nikki?
Yes, Tony. They did a great job of using all 8 phrasal verbs naturally.
Let's break it down a bit. Anna's cake turned out well, and she decided to go in for baking because she loves cooking.
Right, and she set about trying something new with determination. The cake gave off a wonderful smell, which added to her success.
And John decided to cut out junk food, which brought about a positive change in his life. He even called out his own bad habit of being late.
Exactly. It's great to see how these phrasal verbs can fit into everyday conversations. John also mentioned that he might come after Anna and try gardening too.
Yes, it shows how these phrases can be versatile and useful. We hope this dialogue helps our listeners understand and use these phrasal verbs better.
Listeners, remember to practice these phrasal verbs in your own conversations. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
And if you need to, listen to this podcast again. Repetition is key to mastering new vocabulary.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more fun and educational episodes.
Give us a like and share this podcast with your friends who are also learning English.
Thank you for joining us today on Learn English with Podcast. Keep practicing and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.